Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday, May 22nd, Student Loan Justice live stream. We are Student Loan Justice. We are the oldest, largest, first in the country, thus the world, thus the known universe, first, largest, and in many ways only true grassroots group fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. Hope everybody's doing well out there in the world. As always, if you're watching us live on Twitter or Facebook, if you have any questions or comments, throw them out. So I'm just going to get right into it, folks. The topic for tonight is sneaky, weird things. We've been doing this for 17 years, guys, and we've seen a lot of tricks and traps. Sneaky things go on behind the scenes, sometimes in front of the scenes, but usually behind the scenes. On the student loan issue. So let me back up for a minute and I'll give you a bit of history. First of all, we're a fiercely nonpartisan group. So if we say something terrible about a politician you like, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, don't blame us, blame them. They deserve it. We pull no punches. We have absolutely zero partisan leanings one way or the other. If you're a Democrat or Republican, if you're a libertarian or a green, if you're a communist or a Zen Buddhist or whatever your thing is, you're very welcome in this group. This student loan problem transcends partisan politics. And believe me, we have cowboys from Texas in our group, and we have as liberal gets, people from Massachusetts in our group, everything in between. So having said that, the student loan system is strong. It encompasses both parties. It encompasses all manner of left and right non-governmental organizations, even student advocacy groups in this space. All is not kind of what it appears to be often. So the sneakiest trick ever played on us over the past 17 years, and it's been played many times, is to foist a fake loan cancellation gimmick on the citizens as a cheap substitute for returning the standard constitutionally enshrined bankruptcy protections from the loans. So instead of returning bankruptcy protections, which is the kryptonite of the entire lending behemoth, they foist some gimmicky fake student loan cancellation thing on us. This happened in 2007 when this group here was fighting for bankruptcy. And at the last minute, the Blue Dog Democrats stood up in 2008 and killed an amendment that would have returned bankruptcy protection to student loans. And all these student advocacy groups the year previous, in 2007, they went to great lengths to kill the push for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. And I'm talking about some very liberal groups, I think, like the National Consumer Law Center and the U.S. PIRGs and the Institute for College Access and Success. These are name brand Washington, D.C. Beltway groups that have been steering this issue since the entire time we've been doing this, 17 years longer. They went to great lengths to kill the push for bankruptcy rights so that they could foist on us income-based repayment and public service loan forgiveness at the time. And again, we saw this happen in 2011, 2012, right around the time Occupy Wall Street happened, where Obama was seriously considering returning bankruptcy to student loans. And instead, we got some finagling of the pay-as-you-earn program. And he gave us the revised pay-as-you-earn program. Ladies and gentlemen, all of these cancellation gimmicks are fake. The cumulative disqualification rate for all of the loan cancellation gimmicks out there, IBR, PSLF, pay, repay, ICR, you name it, and the income-driven repayment program, you name it. The disqualification rate is over 99%. These things are cruel jokes. And quite frankly, I have to say that here now today. Still, if you think you're getting public service, you might want to think again on that. The data is clear. And I know they rolled out this overhauled, revised public service gimmick, but guys, don't believe anything that the Department of Education ever promises to do as long as the threat of bankruptcy remains gone from these loans, ladies and gentlemen, any loan cancellation that we might see, including an up to $50,000 loan cancellation, up to, operative words, up to, sneaky words, up to, sneaky. No matter what Biden may do or not do, or let's say what he might do in terms of loan cancellation, it will be fake. Biden could call a press conference this week, and he might, who knows, and say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to cancel up to $50,000 in student loans. And the band will cheer, the parade, the champagne will pop, all that stuff. And at the end of the day, after means testing, after an application process, after any number of other bureaucratic tricks that the Department of Education and its contractors can play, that will come to mean almost nothing for almost everyone. Sure, they'll trot out a few stories in the media of these people who got their loans canceled, but for probably 90% of everybody, it'll be like, yeah, we said up to 50,000, but up to could mean anything. And for you, it means $3,000. Congratulations. For you, it means $8,000. For you, it means nothing because you earned too much. For you, it means nothing because we couldn't find your records or something. You filled out your application wrong. You didn't dot that I, you didn't cross that T. Yeah, you get nothing. That's how that's going to go. That's how it's always gone. That's how it is going to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know you've heard me say bankruptcy a number of times here. And if you're new to the group, you're probably like, why does this guy keep saying bankruptcy? This whole problem rests on the unique stripping of constitutional bankruptcy rights from these loans. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. It's a terrible thing to have to do, ladies and gentlemen. But the founding fathers knew that bankruptcy, having the threat of bankruptcy, was so important. They called for uniform bankruptcy laws in the Constitution, ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army. There's a very good reason for that, ladies and gentlemen. It's not that we want everybody to run out and file for bankruptcy. No, that's not going to happen. When we get the threat of bankruptcy returned, the president is going to have to cancel student loans meaningfully. Not this up to yada, 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 yada. No. The threat of bankruptcy is what's important. In fact, very few people should have to file. Maybe even no one will actually have to file. It's just having the power, the leverage of bankruptcy back on our side that is so important. So I'm looking for your comments now. Which brings me to sneaky things. So Elizabeth Warren, we have a history with her as well, I should say. Elizabeth Warren's very first splash in the national spotlight was a top story on 60 Minutes in May 2006, a top story in which we were actually, we and our members here at studentloanjustice.org were the featured guests. It was a seminal news story about how predatory the federal student loan system had become. Elizabeth Warren nailed it in that interview. At the time, she was teaching bankruptcy law at Harvard University, and she nailed it at that point. Well, lo and behold, here we are 16 years later, sorry. I had to do some math in my head. By the way, there was some bad math that I said in the last broadcast. I misquoted something. So if you caught that bad math thing, I apologize, but I'm doing a mea culpa for it right now. Okay, so Elizabeth Warren taught bankruptcy for many years, and she nailed that 60 Minutes interview. It was what put her on the national map. It was what launched her into national politics. And here we are 16 years later. Elizabeth Warren is now calling for student loan cancellation, but she put this nonsense up to $50,000 thing on it. And what is even more creepy and tricky, and I would almost say sneaky, is that she has not, and apparently she will not say publicly whether or not she still supports the return of constitutional bankruptcy protections to student loans. The Boston Globe asked her about this a couple months ago. And she said, "Oh, I don't want to negotiate against myself or something." She's like, "Oh no, cancellation, cancellation. Oh, I don't want to negotiate against myself on bankruptcy." That is bananas and ridiculous. Probably the most important policy thing I'm going to tell you guys here tonight is there is no animosity. There is no competition between getting bankruptcy rights back and canceling student loans. It is not one or the other. It is not. The two are simpatico. And in fact, we are not going to see any meaningful student loan cancellation until and unless we get the leverage of the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. Let me say that one more time. It's that important. Whether you would ever file or never file, it's not important. Unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy back on our side, we are not going to see any kind of meaningful student loan cancellation from President Biden. It is not going to happen. We've seen the Department of Education trot out any number of loan cancellation gimmicks over the years, and all of them have turned out to be fake as long as bankruptcy remains gone. And behind the scenes, make no mistake, the people at the Department of Education, they're not good people, by the way. The Department of Education is a corrupted, captured agency. They fight tooth and nail to keep bankruptcy gone from their cash cow. That's what they do. It's what they've always done. It's what they will continue to do. You know, we have one of our members in California, Paul. He tried to file bankruptcy on $5,000 in student loan debt. Well, Paul estimates that the Department of Education's contractor, ECMC, who makes their living defeating student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court, Paul estimates that ECMC spent upwards of $250,000 to defeat him in bankruptcy court. He was making very valid constitutional claims, by the way. He was quashed for no good reason. The judge never explained himself. They just said, nah, denied. And that's how that went. But that goes to show you how important keeping bankruptcy gone from these loans is to the Department of Education, which is why the most practical thing I'm going to tell you here tonight is that we have a bill right now, S-2598. Senator Dick Durbin is the sponsor. Senators John Cornyn and Josh Hawley, two Republicans, believe it or not, are the two co-sponsors. The bill returns bankruptcy protections to federal student loans. And there's a 10-year waiting period, so it's not perfect, but it's very good. And this bill could be passed right now today. And that is where we spend probably 75% of our energies. By the way, if you are new to the group, you should know this is the group that launched the concept of canceling student loans by executive order into the zeitgeist in the first place. In fact, the very first media coverage of the concept of canceling student loans by executive order happened in August 2019 with a very seminal interview that we had with Vice News. And it was us against Mark Kantrowitz, by the way. Mark believes that the president cannot cancel student loans by executive order. I know that we can, and that was sort of the point of the interview. But that's where the public conversation about this really started. And we started the petition March 2020 calling for exactly that. Only we didn't call for the president to cancel up to $50,000. That's ridiculous. This lending system has failed. All the loans have to be canceled. The lending system should be ended. This is a nationally threatening lending system. So about 6 months after our petition just started rocking and rolling, when we were up around 800,000 signatures, Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embraced the concept. And we're thrilled that they did, by the way. And they started calling on then President Trump to cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt by executive order. That's the key clinching point there. Congress will never cancel student loans. In order for Congress to cancel loans, they have to raise money to pay for it. So if they want to cancel $1.6 trillion in federal student loans, they have to raise $1.6 trillion. Not ever, ever, ever going to happen. And it's stupid because the government already owns these loans and the president can cancel them without needing one dime from the Treasury, without needing one nickel, without adding one nickel to the national debt. So, we are big fans of student loan cancellation. Don't get me wrong. And again, we, thankfully, me and Ed and all the other old timers on this group, we've seen this movie before, guys. We've seen this trick, this sneaky trick played on us before. And we're not going to be fooled this time, guys. That's why we spend 80% of our time fighting for the return of bankruptcy protection to student loans, and why you should too. You know, I couldn't say why all the other groups out there that you may be aware of, why they seem to be afraid to even mention bankruptcy and student loans in the same sentence. Quite frankly, that seems pretty suspicious to me. Speaking of sneaky, suspicious, tricky things. But whatever, man. I don't care about the other. Let the other groups speak for themselves. They can defend themselves. What I know that here on this group, all we care about is solving this problem. And the path to getting this problem actually solved, not fake solved, actually solved, begins with the return of bankruptcy protections to these loans. Hey, we have a bunch of comments here tonight. Let me just jump right into it. I see R. Eugenio Perez is with us. Gordon Wayne Watts is with us. Vanjie is with us tonight. Hey, Vanjie and Terry's with us as well. R. Eugenio Perez says, do you think that in order for bankruptcy rights to return, they would have to privatize these loans because you can't bankrupt or owe the government? No, nothing like that, R. Eugenio. The bill in Congress right now in the Senate, S-2598, it forces federal loans, federal student loans, to be treated essentially the same as all other loans in bankruptcy proceedings. So in other words, as long as the loans are over 10 years old, then this so-called undue hardship, ridiculous criterion does not have to be met. So when we get S-2598 passed, federal student loans that are more than 10 years old will be treated the same as all other loans in bankruptcy court. And that's how that's going to go. You don't need to consolidate. You don't need to do anything. But if you have, well, no, in all cases, what I just said. So I have nothing to add to that. What we would like to see is a clean repeal of the whole entire line of federal code, 11 U.S. Code 523A8. We need to see that whole thing deleted from existence. That will return bankruptcy protections for all intents to all student loans. I think there may still be a nonprofit exemption for private loans, but yeah, that would still be. But that's what we really need. And I was hoping that we'd get that this session, but we didn't. What we got was this other bill that only covers federal loans, both FFELP and the newer style direct federal loans, which is like 90% of all student loan debt. So no, you don't have to do anything, Eugenio. But we have to fight for this bill. That's the one thing we really have to do. We have to fight for S-2598 like our student loans depended on it, because they do. And the number one action item I have for you tonight, by the way, is to go to our website and do at least I'd say a week worth of our daily actions. It's the most efficient use of your time. Don't be distracted. Don't sit there, wait, watch, and worry and expect that me or anybody else is going to solve your problem for you. This is a hands-on, fighting, working group. We are the reason this bankruptcy bill is even in existence in the first place. So make no mistake, we're the pioneers on this, guys, and what we do really matters. What you do really matters. This stuff does not happen in a vacuum. So if you forget everything I say tonight, remember this. If you care about solving this problem, whether you want your loans canceled, whether you want some middling, interest break or some other in between solution, or whatever you want for your student loans, it begins with getting bankruptcy back. So the best thing you can do is go to our website and do all of our daily actions. I would also say the best thing that you can do along with that is go to our Medium channel, which I will bring up here right now. Hopefully, there it is. Go to our Medium channel and read the first 5, 6, 7, 8 articles in there. They're quick articles. They're easy to read, easy to understand. Read them, inculcate them, enjoy them, by the way. There are some jaw-dropping facts and statistics in there that you need to be aware of. When you are aware of them, you will become a very fine student loan justice warrior. And we need you in this fight, because as I said, these are your loans. This is your problem. This is your livelihood at stake. And the talking heads on the internet and in Washington, D.C. and the other student advocacy groups, they're not going to solve this problem for us. We all have to fight this battle on our own in many ways. You're not alone. We are all together in this, but we are the pioneers. So you can't unhear that. And don't think for a minute that anybody else is going to pull your weight for you, because they're not. Go to our website, do at least a week worth of our daily actions, and read our articles so that you can become a very impassioned student loan justice warrior, like many of the people I see here on this group tonight. Yeah, so do that. And some more comments here. I'm going to try to get to all your comments tonight, guys. If I am not able to, then I apologize in advance. I see we have a few. Eugenio says, give us some time. We probably say the same about the other party. Yeah, that's right. If you hate us talking bad about Elizabeth Warren, just wait around, or just Google student loan justice and like Donald Trump, and you will see that we say nasty things about politicians from both parties. If they earn it. And we would love to be saying great things about Elizabeth Warren, but sorry guys, I can't do it. I can't. I wish I could. We have, as I said, we have a 17-year history with Elizabeth Warren. And if I could say anything good about her up to $50,000 student loan cancellation plan, where she conveniently fails to even mention bankruptcy, if I could say anything good about that, I would. But there's nothing good about that, guys. It's sneaky. It's sneaky. It's creepy. Gordon, oh, good luck with your cat. I just got rid of my last kitten today, so good luck with your cat. I'm not gonna mention that. People can read that comment for yourselves. Personal thing from Gordon. I think all political parties get together and script this crap. R. Eugenio Perez says, doesn't it seem like that? It really does seem like that. Like, it's almost like cartoonish how they seem to have child-proofed the student loan cancellation issue. They've child-proofed it. They've put this fake up to $50,000 upper bound on it, and they've thrown it out to the partisan food fight, where Democrats flock to one side, Republicans flock to the other side, and it's just nonsense, guys. It's fake. The whole thing is fake. Don't believe it, guys. Don't believe it. We are way more powerful than you might think. This lending system is catastrophically failed. I don't care what kind of nonsense they do or don't do, or don't say, don't do in Washington, D.C. This lending system is dead. It's failed. Even before the pandemic, less than half of everyone was even paying on their loans at all. Less than half. In fact, 2/3 of all borrowers, officially, 64.3%, nearly 2/3 of all borrowers before the pandemic were not paying on their student loans. That's a failed lending system, guys. So remember that. In my humble opinion, nobody should, and very few people will ever resume paying on their federal student loans. It's time to take this thing to the bath and drown it in the tub. That's a very conservative thing I just said, but it's true, guys. Lending systems fail from time to time. We did not break this federal student loan system. It tried to break us. You shouldn't feel bad. This is not your fault. This is not a personal responsibility thing. If it ever was, maybe when people were borrowing $500 back in the 70s, maybe it was a personal responsibility thing. It is not that now. This is a catastrophically failed, nationally threatening student loan scam. It's a scam. Trademark, patent, copyright. But don't feel bad. Lending systems fail from time to time. Look at the subprime home mortgages. Look at the S&L scandal. Look at all of Europe in 1945. That was way more than just a lending system failure. So these things happen, and they have happened throughout world and American history. Don't feel bad. Not your fault. This is not a bad borrower thing. This is a bad lending system thing. I would say, honestly, maybe you should feel a little bad if you ever pay another dollar into this lending beast. It should not be fed. It should be starved. It should be taken to the bath and drowned in the tub, as I said before. And I know people are going to do what they're going to do, but it's just, in my humble own personal opinion, it is not only unwise, but it's probably unwise, but it's also unpatriotic to feed this lending beast Like anything that you can do to bulletproof yourself and cut these people off is what I strongly think you should do. In my humble opinion, you can make your own decisions. Hey, Terry Dawes with us tonight. Hey, Vanjie's with us. Vanjie Enru is not impressed with Elizabeth Warren. You know, don't get me started on Elizabeth Warren. We wanted to support her. We actually, by her presidential agenda in Iowa a couple of years ago before the presidential election, we could have supported her, and we did support her. In fact, I volunteered for her. But Elizabeth Warren is playing a trick, guys. She's playing a sneaky, sneaky trick. And Gordon Wayne Watts rightly points out bankruptcy is a requirement of the Democratic Party's platform. That's right. The Democratic Party platform, as it was adopted in 2016, and I think also in 2020, was returning bankruptcy protection to student loans. It certainly was in Elizabeth Warren's presidential platform. Thanks to us, by the way. And I have to give a shout out to Mo Takasik, a reporter who made the connection, which it's kind of hard to explain, but Maureen wrote a very key article that gave voice to our begrudgment that Elizabeth Warren at that time did not include bankruptcy protections in her presidential agenda. They read that article, and within a couple days, boom, all of a sudden bankruptcy was there. So I give us and Maureen Takasik some credit there. But you know, Elizabeth Warren, I don't know what to tell you guys. She just doesn't seem to be very sincere. And thankfully, we're still around after 17 years, because if we had, me and Ed and everybody else, if we had packed this group in and went on with our merry lives, say 5 or 10 years ago, which by all rights, we probably should have. If we had done that, then the institutional memory of this trick would have been lost and everybody would have gotten tricked again. I really hope, if there's anything good about us having been doing this for 17 long effing years now, it is that. So Evelyn Lara Ferris is with us tonight. Hey, Evelyn. Gordon Wayne Watts says the most important thing you'll hear all day: if cancellation is attempted first, whether by executive order or whether legislatively, much harder to pass in an already gridlocked Congress. It's not going to pass in Congress, Gordon. Congress is not going to pass a bill that raises hundreds of billions or even trillions of dollars in new tax money. They're not going to cut hundreds of billions or trillions from other programs to pay for loan cancellation. That's the stupidest thing in the world. It's never going to happen. It's not ever, ever. Will it ever happen? Bankruptcy, S2598, is the most important thing that anybody should be fighting for right now. And I know bankruptcy sucks. Nobody wants to file. I don't want to file. You don't want to file. Bankruptcy sucks. It's unpleasant. Nobody wants to fight for it. Doesn't matter. We've got to get that right back. We've got to get that piece of leverage back. Until we do, they are going to screw us around. They're going to string us along with these fake loan cancellation gimmicks forever. That's the way that's going to go, guys. We don't want that bad outcome. This lending system is toast. It's failed. I don't think even 20% of the borrowers will ever resume paying again. But we want the good, clean, quick death to this lending system, guys. And I don't see that happening unless and until we get the threat, the leverage of bankruptcy returned to us, which is why S2598 is so freaking important. And why, if you forget everything I say tonight, you should say, wow, I need to go to studentloanjustice.org and do those daily actions. Do a month worth of those daily actions. Get a Twitter account if you don't have one, for the sole purpose of doing these daily actions. You guys, I can't tell you how important you are. You guys sitting there are so important. Either you help or we get nowhere. And that's kind of the way that's going to go. And by the way, I'm stoked. You know, we've got over 1 million members across all of our platforms now. So make no mistake, we are no shrinking, we are no delicate flower. We've got a huge muscle to flex on this group, but that only matters when you sitting there own this problem and do a little bit of effort every single day, hopefully. And that starts with the daily actions. When you do those things, like literally, you can do a day's worth of our daily actions in probably like 30 seconds. It's like retweet this, retweet that. maybe a couple minutes at the most. So, another sneaky, and not sneaky, another weird kind of just sort of creepy, kind of weird thing that I noticed is, there's a thing out there. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but there's a thing out there where people are all of a sudden getting their student loans paid for them, maybe by some wealthy benefactor, or maybe what I saw the Debt Collective do over the weekend, which is to pay a lender money to cancel worthless debt for pennies on the dollar. And guys, we're glad the Debt Collective is calling for student loan cancellation. Not glad that they have said absolutely nothing about bankruptcy. That is slightly suspicious, I might say. But guys, taking money and giving it to either lenders or colleges to cancel loans, that accomplishes nothing. That's not scalable. And essentially what they're doing is they're paying the collection industry money. They're engaging in contracts with the collection industry, and they are making those old, dead, legally uncollectible, I think, loans more valuable in the collection marketplace. It's stupid. It's a gimmick. Why would they do that? It makes no sense to me. They started doing this in like 2013, and I wrote an article about it then. It's stupid. The people who get their loans canceled, it's not like they even cared anyways. They were never going to pay them, and I'm almost positive they had run past their statutes of limitations, certainly on all the previous rolling jubilee gimmicks out there. These were uncollectible loans, so it made no sense to be engaging in contracts and paying the collection industry money to cancel worthless loans. And in this most recent case, they apparently are paying the colleges money for their worthless loan portfolio. I don't think either the colleges or the lending companies, their collection goon squads, deserve any of our money. That's just stupid. It makes no sense. And the people who they say are benefiting really aren't, because, like I said, the loans were worthless garbage and they were never going to be paid. And the people who got their loans canceled had forgotten about these loans many years ago. So I don't know if that's I don't know if that's sneaky, maybe not sneaky, but it's just weird. Like, why? It's just weird. Anyways, I'm not going to say anything more about that. But, Debt Collective and all the other student advocacy groups out there, many of them are very bad, by the way. Many of them are straight up corrupted. The fact, their silence on the bankruptcy issue is deafening. And that is suspicious. That is creepy. Because if they know anything about the student loan problem, and they should, because this is kind of what they do, right? They should have recognized the intrinsic link between getting the leverage of bankruptcy returned and getting real, actual student loan cancellation. So, but again, I'm not going to, those groups can speak for themselves. You should ask them the tough questions, by the way. They can let them defend themselves. We know here on this group, we know the right path, and we don't do shady deals with collection industry people. There's nothing like that. So rest assured, group guys, this group is fighting on the right path to actually get loans canceled. The up to $50,000 nonsense is a trick. It's a trick. It's a trap. It's a joke. And the fact that all the bubblegum media out there is so happily diving into the up to $50,000 nonsense kind of proves that it's nonsense in many ways. So we're getting good media coverage too, I have to say. I've been pleasantly surprised with recent interviews we've done with The Guardian, live on Fox News about a month ago, Newsweek. We've made the rounds, and we're very happy to be interviewed. And there certainly is some good news media out there from time to time. But honestly, guys, the student loan swamp is strong. And 95% of the media that we see right now on the student loan issue, it's tricky, it's trappy, it's sneaky, it's suspicious. So take everything you read in the media with a grain of salt. Take almost everything you read in like Forbes magazine or Yahoo Finance. Don't even read that crap. That's garbage. The bad guys, they would like you doing what the bad guys want. They want you waiting, watching, worrying, reading Forbes magazine, and doing nothing. That's what they want. That's what our enemies want. Do not give them the pleasure. Help us. Go to our website. Do our daily actions. How many times do I have to say that? Fuck. Anyways, guys. But I am actually very encouraged. Hey, Denise Pro says, Twitter is the way. Forget about only Facebook. Facebook is family, friends, birthdays, Twitter talks, issues, etc. You know, I hate Twitter, Denise, but I have to agree with you. Denise is right. Facebook is kind of a mess. And Twitter is a very direct, very efficient way to reach out and hit people who, like decision makers, like the Secretary of Education or the chief financial or the chief operating officer of the Department of Education, like every sitting member of Congress, both House and Senate, like all of these so-called influencers, all of these writers, all of these bad people and good people. The best way to hit them between the eyes is on Twitter. It really is. So, and by the way, you can follow us on Twitter, and I hope you will. We've only been doing Twitter for less than a year, but I'm pleased that we have like 4,000 followers or something like that. 4,600 followers. We could definitely use some more followers. We're a little late. We are a little late embracing the whole Twitter thing. So yeah, please follow us. We do Twitter actions every single day. And we also have a Twitter army getting up and running now. It's 150 people. Hopefully we'll be more soon. Join our Twitter army. I think you can see a link to that at our petition, which is change.org/cancel student loans. Change.org/cancel student loans. Oh yeah, but follow us on Twitter. Yeah, I hate Twitter, but Twitter actually kind of works. I hate to say it. Gordon makes comment, very important. We're fighting for S2598, guys. There's another bill for private loans, HR 4907. If you have fully private loans, that is loans that are owned entirely by a private company, so the federal government does not own them, does not guarantee them, you need to fight for HR 4907. The bill does not have much juice behind it, I'm sorry to say right now. It could. And we as a group, we would spend more time fighting for it if other people stepped up. But I'm just not seeing it right now, guys. We have to put our very scarce energies into what is working and what is moving. S2598 is moving. Dick Durbin is the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's also the House Majority Whip. And Dick Durbin has all the votes he needs to get this bill through committee. And frankly, my best guess is that the bill would probably pass a full vote in the Senate with an overwhelming majority, way more than 60 votes. I believe that. I'm sure of it, actually. And that's the best news I have for you tonight, by the way, guys. While all this nonsense about student loan cancellation has been going on, the opposition to bankruptcy for student loans has dried up and withered away and blown into the wind. It almost doesn't exist anymore. You know, we fought this battle for 15 years with all these people saying, "No, why should we let you file bankruptcy?" We faced a massive headwind of opposition on the bankruptcy issue for well over a decade. And only in the past 2 to 3 years have we seen the opposition to bankruptcy go away. So we have a very, very, very clear path to finally getting this fundamental baseline of justice returned to student loans. And I could not be happier. And I am not, and you should not be, or no, I could not be, and you could not be fighting any harder for it. In other words, you should be fighting for S2598, no matter what your deal is, no matter whether you want loan cancellation, whether you want bankruptcy. Hey, Kara Rodriguez is with us tonight. Hey, Kara. Kara says, they sure seem to like to portray it as a bad borrower situation, a moral failure. Yeah, that's nonsense, Kara. As I said, we didn't break this federal lending system. It tried to break us. The founding fathers are on our side. We have the moral high ground. This is the sort of dangerous lending system that the founding fathers were very concerned about when they called for uniform bankruptcy laws in the Constitution. I'm telling you guys, this all comes back to the Constitution and bankruptcy. We have the high ground. Our opposition are bad people. They have the low ground. So people who like to wag their fingers, I would say either don't pay attention to them, or maybe even better, you can very quickly shut them up. No matter what they're saying, you can shut them up very quickly by going to our website, studentloanjustice.org. No, even better. Go to bit.ly/SLJ links. And you will see very easy to remember bit.ly links that you can easily remember and type out that will easily answer all of the haters. So we have a bit.ly link that goes to a paper that answers the question, will student loan cancellation cause inflation? No, it will not. bit.ly/won't cause inflation. Will student loan cancellation benefit the wealthy? No, it won't. bit.ly/won't help rich. Like the 15 most common bad things that the haters throw up, we've answered them all. And you can see those answers. And so instead of pulling your hair out, fighting with these fucking stupid haters on the internet, you could just say, hey, buddy, bit.ly/hear it from Tucker. Boom, done. Shut them up. Check it out. It's a very powerful tool. And if you really want to fight for studentloanjustice.org, bit.ly/SLJ links will give you all the snappy comebacks that you need so that you don't even have to think about it. You don't have to stress. You don't have to get into some weird ego tete-a-ta. Maybe even with a bot. Like, how embarrassing is that? You don't want to do that. You don't save your energy. And these bit.ly links are a great way to shut people up with very minimal effort. So yeah, do that. Hey, Denise Pearl says, I remember I owed $1,000 to a community college. I paid back with payments, no interest, early 80s. Yeah, how different the universe is from the early 80s. You know, many people took out student loans in the 70s and 80s. And by the way, they had bankruptcy protections with a 5 or 7 year waiting period. But it was very simple back then. You get a booklet, you pay a certain amount for 10 years, and that's what you do. And when the booklet's done, you're done. And yeah, maybe you're late once in a while. It's not a big deal. You know, the loans were administered in good faith, and the loans were small. That is how it should be again. If there even is to be any student loans in the future, quite frankly, I think maybe there should not be. But that's not our problem. Whatever the future higher education financing model might be, that has nothing to do with our fight here. But yeah, it used to be not a big deal. And that's why bankruptcy protections are so important. With bankruptcy returned, we will get back to rational prices in the price of college. We will get back to good faith administration of the loans, if there are even to be loans. The problem is the bad guys have pushed this lending beast way off the cliff. And at this point, it's time to just be done with this lending system. It's time to throw the hand grenade, blow it up, start over again. It's time for a student loan jubilee, if you will. And no matter what the people in Washington do or say, don't say, that's going to happen. So but we need to fight for the good, clean, quick death. And yeah, Gordon very rightly mentions Congress must pass S-2598 first if Biden or Congress tries to cancel student loan debt. Yeah. As I said, we're not going to see any meaningful student loan cancellation unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy return. So S-2598 is just everything, guys. Kara says, I'm pushing for HR 4907. Good for you, Kara. And ask other people with private student loans to do the very same thing. Kara says, I don't want anyone to ever be victimized like I was. Yeah, Kara, and that's a great point that you mentioned. We are the pioneers in this battle on this group, guys. But remember, it's not just ourselves that we're fighting for. It's for 44 million other people in the country. We've got over 1 million people in our group, but there's still 44 million student loan borrowers who don't even know about us. And by the way, you should tell them about us. You should spread the word about this group, because we are the eye of the storm. We are the storm. We are the tip of the spear. We are the spear. All the stuff we're seeing right now started in this group, believe it or not. I kid you not. But not only that, Kara, we're also fighting for tens or even hundreds of millions of people who are going to follow in our footsteps. Maybe they haven't even been born yet. They don't need to be conquered and enslaved by debt, much less student loan debt from the federal government. That's disgusting. And the most serious thing that I'll say tonight is, if they can do to other loans what they did to student loans, that is take away bankruptcy protections, take away statutes of limitations, weaponize these loans in the way that they have, there's no stopping this beast from going into other types of loans: medical debt, credit cards, home mortgages, auto loans, business loans, you name it. They can do the same shit to every loan in the country. And at that point, the United States of America essentially ceases to exist. We become a slave state. We become a vassal empire. And that is the most profound, serious thing that I will tell you tonight. Think about it. I'm already hearing murmurs in Washington, D.C. about how they would like to erect a similar barrier to bankruptcy for medical debt. That could be around the corner if this precedent that we are fighting is allowed to stand. So there's a lot riding on this battle, ladies and gentlemen. I don't mean to lay it on too thick, but there really is. And thank you, Kara. I really appreciate your comment. Hey, Aaron Root's with us tonight. Hey, Aaron. Kara loves the Bitly links. Good, Kara. I love them too. I tried to name them in smart ways so that you can very easily remember them. Bitly/won't cause inflation. Bitly/won't help rich. Bitly/old more than young. Older people outnumber younger people with student loan debt today, by the way. Bitly/old more than young. Hey, Aaron says, I noticed my Fed loan balance mysteriously went from 319K to 309K. Perhaps 10K was forgiveness applied. Not to be ungrateful, but I have no idea, Aaron. It's the Wild West right now. The lending system is disintegrating. It's evaporating into a mist of illegitimacy right now. The two largest loan servicers have quit or are quitting. The whole thing is just falling apart before our very eyes. So I would say any kind of communication you get from any servicer, any collection company, any guarantor, even from the Department of Education, it's probably not even worth the paper it's written on right now, guys. We are in uncertain times. Like, remember in 1932 Germany when they were rolling around wheelbarrows full of worthless paper? That's kind of like the paperwork that's coming from the lending system right now. Like, it's the Wild West. It's like, dogs and cats living together. It's like chaos. It's like the whole thing's falling apart. So you really you don't know what to trust. It's a very interesting time, ladies and gentlemen. Lending systems fail quite frequently, but it's a pretty rare thing. It's not like it happens every day. So you kind of have to roll with the punches. We are the unfortunate firsthand witnesses of the death of the federal student loan system. And like I said, guys, it's a crisis, but it's also an opportunity. I know that in uncertain times like these, the people who seize the initiative are the guys who survive. So remember that. Now is not the time to run away and hide. Now is the time to jump in and fight, because we got them on the ropes now, guys. We've never, ever, ever been in a stronger position than we are right here tonight. Quite frankly, if the Democrats want to pull their asses out of the midterms and actually survive the midterms, I think they have to cancel all federally owned student loans. I think they have to. Because this up to $50,000 is certainly not impressing us. I don't think it's impressing. People are not stupid. People know exactly what up to means. I don't think people are going to rush out to vote for Democrats, even if in the 11th hour, right before early voting, Biden goes, hey, I'm going to cancel up to $50,000. Most of the people on our group, up to $50,000, 60% of the people on our group would still be screwed. Way more than 60, actually. I think closer to 70% of the people on our group. It would not eliminate their debt, even if it was $50,000, and it won't be $50,000. It'll be up to $50,000, which will be almost nothing for almost everyone, and absolutely nothing for many. So I don't think people are buying that bullshit. I think people are smart. I think most student loan borrowers are over the age of 35. I think people over 50 now outnumber people under 25 with student loans. We are not dumb people. We're pretty wise. And we've seen the tricks and the traps and the sneaky and the snaky and the creepy and the crappy over many years. And we're not going to rush out to vote for Democrats because Biden makes yet another fake promise out of the side of his neck just before the midterms. I think if Biden said, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to come clean with you. The lending system is done. It's toast. Those people are looking at the same data that I'm looking at. Those people know exactly what I know. And what I know is what I told you tonight. The people in Washington, D.C. know this lending system has failed. And quite frankly, I think there's some good people in Washington, D.C., like Richard Cordray, like James Cavall. These people are not dumb. I mean, Richard Cordray is a 5-time Jeopardy champion. And quite frankly, I think he's probably a fairly good guy. I know James somewhat, and I know James to be at least not a bad guy. If ever the right people were in the saddle at the Department of Education to do the right thing, it would be now. And the right thing, by even the most by all rational measures, the right thing to do right now, in the view of this disintegrating, cartoonishly nonsensical, evaporating into a mist of illegitimacy federal student loan program, is to cancel all the loans. Admit that it was a massive failure. Good for them. A whole bunch of people got college educated. Good. And good for the government. The government scraped a lot of money out of the citizens under this lending scam. But it's time to end this experiment. It's time to spend maybe the next 6 years redesigning, reinventing higher education in this country. Or you can spend the next 2.5 years pretending this loan monster is anything other than a catastrophically failed lending beast that needs to be deleted and thrown onto the scrap heap of failed U.S. policy in history. So who knows, guys? We could see Joe Biden do a mea culpa. And Joe Biden is a very strong culprit in this whole thing, going back to his days as a senator. I think the thing that would endear Joe Biden to the citizenry would be, for once in his life, to be honest about something and say, look, guys, I'm going to tell you, I bear responsibility for getting bankruptcy gone for these loans. It seemed like the right thing to do at the time. I bear responsibility in 1976, 2005. I've got a little bit of blood on my hands on this, but I have to be honest with you people. The lending system is done. The lending system is toast. It did not turn out well. It didn't achieve what we hoped it would achieve. It's become a national threat. Ladies and gentlemen, for the good of the country, I'm going to cancel all of these loans, and I am going to suspend the lending system through the end of next year, through 2025. And I am going to ask my advisors, and I'm going to ask Congress to replace this failed lending system with something that works. If Joe Biden was to do that, it would be not only the right thing to do, I think it would be politically exactly and maybe the only thing that he can do to survive through these midterms and and maybe get himself a second term. Because right now he's going to be weaker than Jimmy Carter first term president. So we can only hope. But again, guys, none of this stuff happens in a vacuum. If we let our opposition rule the day, then we are going to be overwhelmed, baffled, and buried by this bullshit. Pardon my French. And our opposition is not sleeping, guys. We need you fighting this battle harder now more than ever. So the very last thing I'll say for the 8th time tonight, go to our website, Student Loan Justice, and do at least a week, if not a month, if not 2 months or 3 months worth of our daily actions. And let's make this next week the best week ever for student loan justice. Things are happening, guys. I've never been in a better space. I've never been more optimistic and positive. Things are the truth is finally rising to the top. And that's the only thing we've ever fought for is truth and justice. So remember that. So I will be with you tomorrow. I see maybe a couple more comments there if I can get to them. Aaron doesn't like Secretary Cardona. It's not just Cardona, Aaron. It's the most important people on this issue are the people around Cardona. They're people like Richard Cordray, Cordray, James Cavall, Toby Merrill, Julie. I can never remember her name. Julie Peterson, I think. Anyways, but you will find all that out if you read the articles at our Medium website. You will see who all the good players are. And one very last quick policy point, guys. We're also pushing on the president to stop opposing student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. That is something they can also do tomorrow with Congress not required. We are pushing Biden to do that very hard. And so that's bankruptcy is important, guys, whether you would ever or never have to file. All right, guys, I have to cut it off. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to all your questions. Let's make this week the best week ever for student loan justice. We need you in this battle. You have no idea how important you are, and you can't unhear that. So in the immortal words of my typing class teacher in junior high in 8th grade in 1985, now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. And I would append that to include women because this is politically correct and the right thing to do. Okay, guys, have a great week. Good luck. Godspeed. And God bless everybody.